everybody, what's up, and thank you for tuning in. In this video, I'm going to show you a few things to where you can start learning how to tune today and get progress today and get your car to start running better today. Everything from this graph, how to read it, how to navigate through it, and how I'm able to use it to make these maps, clean them up. And what is a map? How do I navigate through it? What do these degrees mean? What's the difference between these sparks and these arrows? What it all means, I'm going to show you right now. So let's get to it. In this example, I'm going to use my car as a demonstration. This is a 98 Acura Integra with the K24A2 swapped into it, and I'm running K-Pro V4 on the K-Pro harness. So before I give you all the juicy details, assuming you already have a base map, I'm just going to show you just in case, because if you have the incorrect base map, you're going to have a horrible time trying to figure this out. So I'm just going to close out of here for now. Just going to shut this, and I'm going to open up another page. This is letting me know that I have a program running right now and I'm aware of it. The last thing you want to be doing is making changes to a base map based on logs that were recorded, but the logs does not belong to the base map you're looking at. And the program is not going to let you know. So in the future, when you save when you save any of your data logs, make sure that you save it with the same name that you're using for that base map. So if you're experimenting, you don't want to open up a base map from a different time event and looking at a data log from another time event, because it's not going to compare. Now, you're going to come here. There's a tab that says New Calibrations. If you hit File, you can also go to New and select New Calibrations. It's the same thing. So you're going to go to New Calibrations. Now, all these calibrations that are put up here are from technicians and tuners that have done some work and threw it up on here with this program, so people like me and you can just pull information from here and do what we need to do with it. Now, my engine is a 2014 K24A2, and it is naturally aspirated, and it has a few upgrades. It's got an RBC manifold, 75 millimeter skunk throttle body. I have a short ram air intake, and I got headers on it. That's pretty much the most of it. You know, the fuel pump and injectors. The injectors are stock. Those are 310, I believe. And I have an upgraded fuel pump and a fuel rail, but that really doesn't play much of a role here because they're still naturally aspirated. So RSX Type S, this is going to be the 2.0. We're going to look for the 24. So we're going to come on here. We see RSX base, Civic, Come under here. We're going to see other vehicles. K24 Race 650cc. This is, let me show you something. This is something somebody threw up here. And you're going to see these details. 650 injectors. What has it got? TR cams, 2.5 compression, just as an example. You got RSX Accord. All the way down here, we finally see there's only 3 options for me. K24A2, JRSC 650 injectors. That's not me. 3.2 pulley. He's probably running a supercharger. Here's another one, K24A2 TSX, which is my revision. JRSC on 650 injectors. That's not going to help me either. Stock K24 Accord with headers and short ram stock injectors. What does it say here? 85% duty cycle, cranking adjustment rather high, 60%, but blah, 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 blah. We're going to go with this. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to go to OK. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to save as so I can name it and I don't get confused with anything else that I have. So I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Save As. And for demonstration purposes, I'm going to say YouTube Tune. Okay? We're going to save it. Now, will your car crank with this? Will it not? Let's find out. First thing you're going to have to do is you're going to go to your parameters. This button up here, this is parameters, and that opens up this page right here. Okay, we're not going to look at the advanced stuff right away. First thing we need to look at, if you are using the stock injectors, you want to be sure that the stock injectors are in here. There's a button that says injectors, if I can find them. Fuel injectors, here we go. 270 cc. No, we are 310. So I'm going to come here, I'm going to take that out. I'm going to put 310 and we're going to save it. Okay, there's this little hard disk right here. It just says save current calibration. You just click that. All it does is it makes sure it saves. If this crashes, if it closes, your battery dies, you open up this tuning map that you're working with, and these changes are still going to be in here. So you save it. Anytime you make a change that you know you're confident about it, just hit save. Injector voltage compensation. You might be able to find it in here. 310 stock injectors. This might be even better. It gives the computer a better understanding of what's going on. And because it is stock and the option was here, we shouldn't have to mess with this because the ECU is already going to know what to do with it. Second thing I would check, we're not going to go directly into VTEC right away, but to look at it, you know, an 1800 RPM for VTEC is too low. So we're going to put, just for demonstration purposes, 2500. It's a little low. We're going to leave it in there. And for higher boundaries, I'm going to say 5,000. This I'm going to make 38 to be more realistic. 3800. Now, for the kilopascals, this is going to come up frequently in these explanations. And if you don't know what kilopascal is, 101 kilopascal is max, which is equivalent to atmospheric pressure, and 0 is none. When you're idling, it's somewhere like in the 10s or 15, something like that. Now, it is a measure of engine strain, and I'll bring it up again when it's necessary. We'll come back to these boundaries. So I'm going to put 60, and down here I'm going to put 30, but I'll explain this to you some more later. We're going to come here, we're going to hit save. Oops. Let me see what else we got. VTEC oil pressure switch enabled. We're going to leave that enabled because if your VTEC pressure switch has a problem, it'll let you know. VTC enabled, we're all good. Minimum speed for VTEC operation, 6 is not healthy. I don't know how anybody is ever going to be doing 6 miles an hour approaching VTEC engagement, which we have it at 3,800 RPMs, unless you're revving it and popping the clutch, but then your kilopascals aren't going to line up because there's no engine load when you're in neutral. So this is going to be a topic that's going to come up a few times. We're just going to put 30 miles an hour just to be realistic. We're going to save it. Always remember to save that. Let me see. What does throttle look like? That's okay. Map. Now, if you don't know so much about what's going on and you're still watching this video, you probably don't know the difference between a stock map sensor and an aftermarket map sensor. You're only going to need an aftermarket map sensor if you're running boost, because then you're going to exceed atmospheric pressure. We're just going to leave stock unless you have an aftermarket one and you know what it is. Let me see. We're not using, now for analog inputs, this is only something you need to worry about if you're using an aftermarket AEM, AFR sensor with the gauge. The O2 sensor is going to be the LSU 4.9. If you have that, you would type that in here. If you still have the stock factory one, then where would that be at? Where was it? It'll come up again. If you are doing the analog input, analog 3 is the best suggested input for an auxiliary O2 sensor like the LSU 4.9, because channel 3 on the analog inputs is proven to be the cleanest signal with the least amount of noise. So most people that have a little bit more experience with this are going to use input 3. So you get to tell it which input you're going to be using your AEM air fuel O2 sensor. So you're going to put, why isn't this working for me? Number 3. So we're gonna go, this is analog 3, there it is, it says it right here, analog 3. We're gonna do the same thing again. Just gonna pick whatever it is we're using and it's in there. We're not gonna do voltage offsets, we're not in that territory. I'm just gonna hit save. Boost control, closed loop, built-in wideband. Now, if this is clicked, built-in wideband, it is not going to recognize your auxiliary wideband, okay? So this needs to be external wideband, and this is for K-Pro only. Why isn't it not letting me click it? Why is it not letting me? Built-in, why is it not letting me come here right now? We're not using secondary, we only use the primary. Disable field wrote off, cut off. This you would only click if you want to have that pop and crackle backfire on deceleration, and I'll go over that video on a different episode, so I'll leave that unchecked for now, or else you're gonna have a horrible time trying to tune stuff. Now, down here, maximum map for closed loop. What that means, 80% is basically 80% of your kilopascal percentage that's going to be displayed. The highest you can go is 100 to 101%. So that means if you just stomp on the pedal about 45-50%, you're probably going to reach about 80 kilopascals if you are at least in third gear. And what that does, this is a feature that lets the computer transition from these tables that you adjust yourself based on the AFRs that you want to achieve, and it automatically goes into wide open throttle open loop, which is a whole different set of maps that I will be showing you in a different segment, because we do want to get your car running and doing something today, making some changes today. I'm going to be quick because most of you probably already have a base map. Built-in wideband. If it's built in, it wouldn't even be wideband, it'd be narrowband for originally for this year. Let me see. Why isn't it letting me click that and come here? We'll come back to that in a second. Closed loop advanced, wide open throttle compensation tables. That can stay like that for now. Flex fuel compensation. We're not going to get into compensations. We did injectors, your fuel trims. This is so that you can adjust the fuel trims individually, cylinder by cylinder. In the event that one cylinder runs hotter than the other, because that happens, one cylinder has slightly higher compression than the other. We're not going to get into that. We're not pro drag racers. We don't need to do gear compensations. That's good if you're running boost. Your idle, we're probably going to come to this a couple times, because as you make changes to your field maps and your timing, it will affect how it idles, but idling is not that big of a deal. It's not that difficult to get it. It's pretty straightforward. 850 RPMs is a little low. I have mine at 950. It used to be at 9, but I put it at 950 because it's more responsive off the line. Just going to hit save. This scroll bar down here determines how well your car is able to balance the idle needle after you let off the throttle. If it has a tendency of bogging, going below 1,000 and then coming back up, you would just move this up a little bit, and what it does is it just sends the injectors to throw a little bit of fuel so that it catches the RPM so it doesn't fall too down below. There are other settings that are going to help you dial that in. There's a bunch of other little parameters. You make small little changes, and you can make your throttle really snappy to where you can just stomp on the gas pedal. It jumps up and then it drops back down, but it stops exactly at 1,000 RPMs or where you have it. That is something you get into once your car is running right and you just want to polish the edges on your tune. We're not going to do ignition compensation. This is usually pulling away ignition timing if your engine reaches heat temperature that you are unhappy with, especially if you're in Florida. You want to keep this under 200 degrees. You can still drive it up to like 225, 230 degrees, and it'll be safe as long as you have your fuel compensations to dump in a little bit more fuel to cool it down if it gets to that. It'll also use the air intake temperature to make decisions. So not to complicate you guys and make this easy so you can get your car running today, we don't need to look into that until you've already gotten to the point where your engine is running as good as it can run and you're really pushing timing and cam angle from, as many places as you can, and now you just want to tweak it so you can dog your engine out and still have it be reliable. I'll make an episode on that in the future. We're not going to get into knock because we're not going to make a tune that's so extreme that you're going to come anywhere near knock. Lean protection, I don't use because my tune is already good and I have compensations. But when you are tuning, you're going to want to put lean protection, because if you are going to go above 14.8, above 15, you don't want to run too lean, too dry, and smoke your engine out and you don't even know it. So we're going to go lean protection, maximum lambda. Let me see. Engine load is over 90 kilopascals. We're going to say over 80. We don't want to put the engine through so much strain before we get the alarm. We want to know if we're running rich, even if we're cruising. You know what? So I'm going to put 75 because this is for tuning purposes. In the beginning stages of tuning your engine and driving it, you're going to have areas where it's super rich. You're going to have areas where it's super lean. And the last thing you want to do is hit a lean spot under engine load and cause premature wear and not even be aware, because your knock thresholds aren't even set yet, because we're not even getting into knock thresholds. So 75 kPa, that stays. Trigger time, 250 milliseconds. That's a quarter of a second. And what it does is it stops the RPMs. Like if you're accelerating, boop, and you hit a dead zone and you go lean, it's just going to stop. It's just going to stop, and then it's going to return back to normal. And that is going to startle you, and it's going to let you know something isn't happy. Having this feature enabled so that it does that does not hurt the engine. But what does hurt the engine is not having it and continuing to drive in a lean condition. Max kilopass, let's see, fuel lambda. Now, there are differences between lambda tuning and AFR tuning. That's going to be a little bit later. Let me see. Max. We're going to say if I hit 15.50, I want you to let me know. Okay, a perfect AFR is 14.7. You can still be in the 15s and be fine. If you're cruising, you're on the highway, you're in 6th or 5th gear, and you're only like about 2,500 RPMs, it's fine. And you're not going to be at 75 kilopascals. It's going to be more like 35 or 40. Now, 16 is very dry, especially at 75 kilopascals. So we're going to leave it at that. We're going to come here, we're going to save it. Don't forget to save your changes. Map, let's take a look at map. Let's gloss over it. Stock map sensor. Yes, we're using a stock map sensor. We're not using boost or anything. We're not making any changes. Under miscellaneous. Now, if you have some that immobilizer thing happening because you have a stock vehicle and all you're doing is modding your stock vehicle and it's not an engine swap, you're going to have the immobilizer. So you're going to want to disable the immobilizer. Immobilizer enabled. So you want it unchecked. I don't know in any situation where somebody would even want to even deal with that. Leave that unchecked. Enable secondary O2 sensor. So if it's checked, that means you are not using the secondary O2 sensor. If for some reason you are and you want to use it, that is only used for emissions, and it is only used to be sure that your catalytic converter doesn't get clogged or go bad anytime soon from either excessive exhaust heat or from too much of enriched fuel. Now, if you're in K-Pro, you probably don't even care. You prioritize performance over economy. We're going to leave that checked to disable it. Purge system enabled. That's just if you are using a purge system, you enable it. If not, take it off. If you did an engine swap, you're probably not using it. If your engine bay isn't even done, you probably don't have a purge system. So we're going to disable it. Now, ELD enabled, that is, where's my mind? when you get, let me see, ELD enabled. Why do I not remember what that is? Electrical engine load or the engine cell? What is that? I think I forgot. Ignition timing, disable ignition retard when engine is cold. We leave that alone. Normal speed sensor. Okay, this is turning into the video I didn't want to make. It's gonna be too long. Okay, I said this was gonna be about maps. We're gonna stick to maps. Okay, we're gonna skip that for now. Multiplexer digital output, we're not doing that. We're not doing nitrous. Notes, if you want to leave any notes and you want to fill this stuff out, that's up to you. That's your personal information. Onboard data logging is just to have a button or an auxiliary switch, something that you can trigger data logs for you to not need to have your laptop out to be making changes. Protection, boost cut, we're not doing any of that. Advanced protection, we're not pushing it to the extremes. We're not going to do that. Generate a code error, yeah. Illuminate mill. Okay, so the other one was engine load. Illuminate mill is if you hit one of these safety protection measures that you adjust the thresholds and you activate it because you went over a parameter you didn't intend to, your check engine light's going to turn on to let you know something went wrong. Going back to the previous one where I wasn't able to answer it. Which one was it? Miscellaneous. ELD. Now, ELD is, what it does is it measures the engine's electrical load. And the reason for that is when you are under hard throttle and hard acceleration, everything has to work harder. The injectors are slowly going to start to pull more and more power. And there is something that's called ignition dwell time, and because each 4 of the ignition coils take turns firing, the downtime, it has enough downtime to charge up and stock up on volts before it suddenly releases it to ignite the spark plug. So these coils don't just spark on demand. They need to receive a current a little bit in advance so they can store it and charge up and then hit the coil. And there's a setting in here where you can adjust the ignition dwell time to give it more time to give you a more powerful punch. But that is really going to drain power from your battery, and you're going to see it in the logs. And we'll come into that when I do an episode on that. They say if you are using your stock O2 sensor in the stock input of the ECU and you are not using the K-Pro analog input, not to use this ELD because it consumes power to use that feature, if I'm mistaken, and it can give you inconsistent readings with the factory O2. So what I would do is just have your own voltmeter, probably a digital one because it responds faster to volt changes, and just have that somewhere, on your dash so you can see what's happening rather than have this feature. It's recommended to have it off for most configurations. Going back to where we were, data logging protection, we went over protection. Rev limits, 7,100, no. We're gonna do 6,500 because there's no reason to even go to 6,000 because your engine needs to be safe. You do that in gradual steps. Each time you work on your tune and you make changes, you rev a little higher, a little higher, a little higher. You keep your eyes on everything, you check everything, and if everything looks good, no engine knock, none of that, everything's cold, then you can bump it up and it's safe to redline your engine. And leave it at, 6,000 for now. It's not like you don't have control of how far you rev, right? Shift cut, we don't need to worry about that. Throttle, TPS, 100, we don't need to worry about that for now. Traction control, nope. VTEC, we did VTEC, so I'm just gonna hit save again, just be sure everything is saved. Okay, now let's go to the next part. Let's assume you turned your engine, you cranked it, your engine's running, and everything is working. Okay, let me see something. Tables. Now, This is what your stock base map tables are going to look like. They're going to be jagged. They're going to have kinks in it. And if you look at the two-dimensional point of view of it, you can see more or less, what's happening. I've seen worse than this. I've seen worse. Now, let me show you an example. This is a little complicated. If, for instance, if I hit 3,000, this is your 3,000 mark. You see your RPMs down here. Okay, this is 3,000. It's a little confusing because this would need to be turned this way. It's a little confusing. But then when you come up here, it puts it that way, okay? So this took me a while to get used to and understand. It's probably like that for everybody. Now, let's get to the juicy part. This is ignition. This is ignition, okay? Low ignition belongs to low fuel, and it belongs to low cam, okay? Anytime you're working on either low ignition or low fuel or low cam, they go together in unison. These two spark tables will never see each other. This spark table, the low spark table, will never, ever see high fuel. They will never see each other. High fuel will never see low cam, okay? Now, remember, low with low, high with high. Now, each spark table, that there's two spark tables, each spark table and each low and high fuel have multiple tuning tables. Now, for example, we are at 0 degrees. If you click on this tab, you go 0, 10 degrees, 20, 30, 40, 50. Each one is an identical map, exactly the same. And the reason for that is your engine can idle at 0 degrees. When you start taking off, it'll go into 5 degrees. If you hit the gas harder, it's going to spike to like 8 or 10 degrees. Under high power demand, it's going to be max degrees. If you are using the K20 Type S engine, that intake phaser gear or actuator gear gives you 50 degrees of cam angle. If it is the K24 of any iteration, it only gives you 25 max. So if you're like me and you have a K24 or a K24A2, it's still a 2.4, your max cam angle degree is not going to exceed 25. So yes, you will tune the 0 degree tables, the 10 degree tables, the 20 degree tables, and the 30 degree tables, because in order to reach 25 degrees of cam, it's going to come out of the 20 degree table a little bit and use some of the settings from the 30. Now, that we'll get into as I continue to make videos like this. If you guys like the way this video is going so far, give me a like. Let me know in the comments what your situation is, and I can help you tailor and get your tune a little bit more dialed in, and share your comments in the comments section to help the community overall. Now, assuming your engine starts and it's cranking and it's working, everything's fine. It could be running rich in some areas, lean in other areas. First thing we're going to do is we're going to start by, let me just give you a little introduction. So this is low spark. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see this better. Let me see if I can tilt this for you. Okay. Now, I can come here and I can click 10 degrees. I can click 20 degrees. I can click 30. I can click 40 degrees. And I can click 50 degrees. Now, all these tables that we've seen, 40 and 50 didn't seem to change much, and that's fine. That's irrelevant. All these tables belong only to low spark, and only low spark ever. When you go to high spark, that one also has 50 degrees, 40 degrees, all the way down to 0 degrees, okay? Now, you don't have to come here and click this tab to go to these degrees. You can do that with these two buttons right here. Now, this is high cam and this is low cam. This is also high cam and low cam, but it is just an adjustment button. If you are on low cam, and you are on, well, you don't change the degrees for cam. Cam is the actual cam angle. It's only the spark and the fuel for navigation. So if you are in low spark and you're tuning the 10-degree tables and you're like, okay, I already did my 10-degree tables the best that I could. My map looks like crap, but it's the best I can do. I want to do my 5 degrees now. Instead of having to come here, you just hit plus. Okay, so it's the same thing. These two buttons here, whether you are in low spark, high spark, low fuel or high fuel, you can either come here and click it if you like doing things the hard way, or you can just do this, okay? So if you're in low spark, you're 0, it'll go 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. If you go to high spark, now you're in the 50-degree column for high spark, okay? And you can go 40, 30, 20, 10, 0. Coming to low fuel. This is all 0. This is all for the 0 degrees. And what that means is assuming your car at least cranks and it does start and it's idling, assuming we're already there. We're going to show you what spark degree means and what cam degree means, or spark angle and cam angle. Okay, spark angle. If you are at 0 degrees spark angle, that means the spark plug does not ignite until the piston reaches complete top dead center. If you have a spark degree of 10 degrees, that means the spark plug is going to ignite the fuel 10 degrees prior to the piston reaching top dead center. So if this is top dead center, that's 0 degrees. If you're at 10 degrees, for example, you're down here, and what that does is the spark plug is giving the fuel a head start to begin combusting and building up pressure. That way, when the piston reaches top dead center, there's already pressure built up. And that's going to give you more of a combustion, and it's going to burn more fuel. And the exhaust is going to be a little bit hotter because there is more fire and it is less wet. It's more dry, it's hotter. 20 degrees, that means the spark plug is going to ignite the fuel when the piston is even lower, resulting in an even more aggressive compression and a choppier sound for your exhaust. This is good at lower to mid RPMs and lower to mid engine strain. And by engine strain, I mean kilopascals, which is how much power you are demanding before the RPMs have a chance to catch up. And what I mean by that is if you are in first gear and your foot's off the clutch, you're in gear and you're idling at like 1,000 RPMs and you're just rolling, doing 3 miles an hour, and you just stomp on the gas, pedal to the metal, your kilopascals are going to jump to 100, 101 kilopascals instantly. And as the car accelerates and the RPMs go up, the kilopascals are going to drop because now the engine has a little bit of freedom to move around. That's another example of kilopascal strain or measurement. Same thing with the cam angle itself, okay? Now what the cam angle itself means, if you are at 0 degrees cam angle, that means the valves open up exactly when they should in relation to the piston going up and down and pulling air in and compressing it and combusting it. If you have, let's say, 5 degrees of cam angle, now remember the cam lobe is responsible for pushing the valve stem down and the valve opens letting air in. So if you're at 0, it opens up exactly when it's supposed to. If you're at 5 degrees cam angle, that means the air intake valve is going to open up 5 degrees earlier than what it should in relation to the piston's designation as far as, going up and down. And it allows the piston to pull in a little more air. If you're at, let's say, 25, right? Now, if we follow this column, let's see, let's go to 2,000 RPM to make it even. If you're at 2,000 RPMs and you stomp on the pedal and you go to max kilopascals, which is up here, number 10, right? Which is max, you're at 2,000, it's going to shoot you way up here. And now you're at 20 degrees cam angle at 2,000 RPMs at max engine strain. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to repeat these kinds of things many times in this lecture. If you are idling and you're at 1,000 RPMs and you're idling, you're going to be only in these two columns, only in number 2 and number 6. Okay, now you're going to notice that during running operations, whether you're driving or idling, the ECU uses 4 blocks at a time. It doesn't use 1, it uses 4, and it'll float somewhere in between. So if you idle between 800 and 1,000 RPMs, your fuel map or your ECU is going to be somewhere in this vicinity, okay? Now this is low cam, which means it is connected to low fuel. Between 800 and 1,000 RPMs, you're going to be using these 4 columns for fuel. These 4 columns all at the same time, just going to be bouncing around. And it's also going to be using the same exact 4 boxes for low spark, the same exact ones. The only difference is the spark has its own values, the fuel has its own values, and the cam has its own values. But because, like I said, low spark belongs to low fuel and low cam. Low and low go together always, and high always go together. So if you are ever looking at your fuel maps and you are somewhere in the 3,000 RPM range and you are just mid-power, mid-engine strain, 35, 40%, gas pedal, which is your TPS, you're going to be somewhere in here. And the reason for that is because 3,000, you can occupy this whole column. If you are at exactly 3,000 RPMs with hardly no engine strain, you're going to be somewhere around here, these two. If you are at 3,000 RPMs and you're putting your engine through hell and you're accelerating hard and you're giving it the beans, you're going to be here. I mean, right here, right? Because these all belong to 3,000 RPMs, okay? All of these. Now, depending on how hard you are driving your engine at 3,000 RPMs determines how far this way you go, right? Because the more aggressive you drive it, the more power you're demanding, the more fuel it wants. That's why it turns red, right? Because fuel means heat, means combustion. And this direction, left to right, is correlated with these numbers up here, left to right. Remember, this is like 10 kilopascals, 20, 30, 40 to max kilopascals, okay? So if you are at 3,000 RPMs, max kilopascals, you're drag racing, you're right in this column. If you go to low spark, which is connected to low fuel and low cam, you go to low spark, you're at 16.5 degrees of spark. That is exactly what that means. That is exactly what that means. So you can also go to low cam and you're at 20 degrees, okay? So if you're at 3,000 RPMs and you stomp on the gas, you're automatically going to go to 20 degrees cam angle, and it is automatically going to go to 16.5 degrees of spark. Automatically, that is exactly where you're at. That is how you navigate. Now, next thing you need to know, you see this 20-degree table up here? Everything I just discussed and everything I just showed you is in 20-degree tables. Now, let's go to my map. Let's make it juicy now. Let's see here. This is an example of my logs that I've been doing. Let me see. Let's come here. Okay, this is a little bit choppy. I live in Miami, Florida. The roads are rough. That's why my green line for throttle TPS is a little choppy and hit some bumps sometimes. Now, let's go to peak. Where was I? Peak. 5,047 RPMs. So we're going to call it 5,000 RPMs, okay? I was at 5,000 RPMs at 60% TPS, which is throttle body position, which is how much gas pedal I was giving it, which I kind of look at it, but that really doesn't help me make so many decisions. What helps me make decisions is the pink line, which is the map. Manifold absolute pressure, which is 96 kilopascals. Now, I'm going to show you how that comes into play. Let's see here. 5,000 RPMs. That means I'm right here. You see that red marker? 5,000 RPMs. That's where I am. That's the marker that I was telling you about. And I was at 96 kilopascals, right? Look now. Look where it is. Right at the beginning of the 9, okay? Now 96 should be closer to 100. It should be over here. but that is pretty close, okay? Connecting the kilopascal value to the 1 through 10 scale value up here is the best thing you could do for yourself. That is the closest representation you are ever going to get from kilopascals. So let me see, 5,000 RPMs, we're moving, boom, right here, okay? And at 9,000 kilopascals, I go straight up, and there it is. Okay, this is called triangulating. Remember that, this is called triangulating. And you see there's 4 boxes. There's a white box, there's 2 little pink ones, and a dark red one. What that means is, like I said before, your map is always going to use 4 columns at a time so that it can constantly make decisions and make minor adjustments, okay? So in the event that the numerical values that you put in here aren't accurate, the ECU can make its own decisions and make minor corrections with these differences, okay? These discrepancies are important, but they should never be too far apart from each other. They should be close enough to each other. Think about like stepping when you used to walk home from school and you step on the sidewalk and you avoid the cracks, okay? You don't want too big of a jump because you don't want the computer to have to be jumping cracks to land where it needs to be, because it's not going to be a smooth ride. Now, the reason this is dark red is because it is more in this vicinity than it is here, okay? It's using this column the most, and these are pink because it's only using these to make a little bit of a decision. And this one's white because it's using this column the least, okay? So if I come, I'm gonna move this so you can see how it all works. I'm gonna click this and move it over. So if I click this, I'm gonna double tap it so I can move my scroller for my tuning. And you can see as the RPMs go up, I'm sliding this to the right. As the RPMs go up, this is also going up in kilopascal because I'm stepping on the pedal and it's dropping and it changes, okay? You see how the colors change? I was kind of like flickering around. That's the computer making decisions, okay? So let's say up here, 13.28. What if I say to myself, wow, that's rich. 13.28 is pretty rich if I am in 3rd gear, okay? If I'm in 3rd gear and I'm only giving it 25% gas and I'm almost at 4,000 RPMs, I'm at 3789. That's kind of rich. And then you say, but then again, I am at 80 kilopascals, which is pretty high, considerably high. Okay, medium will be like 45 or 50. Be like, well, it does demand fuel, and I am in 3rd gear. I can get out of this hole pretty quick. How long does it stay? I'll make sure you can see that. Now, if it's only if your AFR is only 13.28 for a blip of a second, it's okay. That's just the ECU making corrections, and there are other tables here for smoothing out and blending to help the computer keep.
Okay, sending.
No, shut up. All right, didn't need that distraction. Let's cut to the point. Okay, 1328. What if I want to make this leaner? What if I'm like, I smelled gas when I was driving it. I don't know. I think I want to bring it down. Okay, how do we know? How do we know? Where do we go? What cell do I change and by how much do I change it? This is what you do, because we know that you got high and low of each one of these, and you got tables from 10 to 50. It's like, how do I even choose, right? So you say, well, 40 miles an hour, not so relevant. 25 TPS, not so relevant. 3,700 RPMs, very important, okay? Let's go to an even number. Let me see, 38. 4,000, this is 4,004 RPMs, okay? So 42 miles an hour, not so important. 27, not so important. I'm at 4,000 RPMs and 80 kilopascals, okay? Now, you come here, 4,000 RPMs, how many kilopascals did we say? Sorry, how many kilopascals? 80 kilopascals. Which means I'm going to be in this column. You can see the markers right in between 7 and 8. It's about as close as you're going to get around here. But you can see that the ECU is using fuel from the 7 kilopascal common, or 70 kilopascals more than this, okay? Which is as close as you're gonna get because it uses 4 boxes anyway, okay? Now, one more thing you need to check. And if you don't remember this, this is gonna screw you up every single time. You have to remember this. Don't forget about the cam angles. Do not forget about that, or the degrees, whichever. You come here, see where it says cam angle? You hit cam angle, and here's your graph. Now, the red one, cam 22 degrees, the green one, cam command 23. What is the difference? The green line that belongs to cam command, that says 23 degrees, that means that exactly at 4,000 RPMs, exactly or more or less at 80 kilopascals, you told your computer, let's go to this cam, you told your computer to give it 23 degrees of cam, but the computer was only able to achieve 22 degrees. Okay, and that's okay. You can be off 1 or 2 degrees. That's okay. That's okay. Now, oops, this is what you do. So you say, okay, I'm at 23 degrees. You come up here and you go to the 20 degrees, okay? Because 23 is closer to 20 than it is to 30. So you go to 20 degrees. So this is the table you need to look at if you want to go from 1336 to maybe 1436 or 1440, okay? So let's have a look again. 4,000 RPMs, 81 kilopascals, 22 degrees of cam. These are the 3 things you need to look at in order to tune. The only other thing that I look at besides the cam angle is I go to knock and I put knock here, because the last thing I want to do is create a hotter combustion for more power if I'm getting knock. So if I come here, you see these, this isn't knock, but it's close to knock. These blue lines mean that the ECU felt signs or an indication of a knock, but it wasn't aggressive or severe enough to classify it as a knock. So it's a warning, okay? This is called ignition, knock ignition limit. It's like a threshold, okay? So the red means knock, 0 knock count. We had a knock event, but it didn't constitute as a real knock. 0 knock. After this event, 0 knock. After these 2 little spikes, 0 knock. Now you notice that this spike here is, can't get this out the way. This spike up here is correlated with this throttle spike. I just gave it brum, brum, a quick little blip. So it could have been noise, could have been vibrations, or I could have just ran lean for a split second. And there is a whole another table for telling the injectors to just randomly spit a short burst of gasoline if I ever blip the throttle just to not go lean. So this could have happened either because it went lean for like a fraction of a second and it picked it up, or it could have just been noise and vibrations. Now, to know the difference between that means you have to have at least a reliable tune, and you have to have been driving your car for some time and paying attention and taking logs. And once you get familiar with your engine and you know how it behaves, and you know where and when the vibrations come in that just happen to be correlated with these warnings, you can adjust for it. Now, the reason we might not be making 23 degrees of cam and only 21 degrees of cam is because anytime you get a warning, the ECU is going to pull away 3 degrees of ignition. It's going to pull away 3 degrees of ignition just to give the piston a little bit of relief in the event that these disturbances were caused by near detonation instead of noise or vibrations. So hope I'm not confusing things too much. We're gonna come back over here. We said we were at 4,000 RPMs. It's 4,004, okay. 4,000 RPMs, 80 kilopascals, and we have no knock in this vicinity, no warnings or anything. So I know if I want more power, I can add more spark and I can add more cam. because I'm not getting knock, and I'm not even getting a warning. And my knock control only says 1%. So I have room for a more aggressive combustion, which is more power. But we're rich, and we can get that power by removing some fuel. Because if you have more fuel than what you need, you're blowing out the candle. So 4,000 RPMs, 80 kilopascals, and our cam angle was 22. Not 23, we want 23, but we're not achieving it. We only got 22. But it doesn't matter because it's still in a 20-degree column. These only go by tens. They don't go by fives or individual digits. So you can't pinpoint it that well. So we are in the, let me undo that. We are in the proper degree table, on the proper fuel table. Are we? We're not in VTEC. Okay, hold on. VTP and VTS is on. These two, so this tells us we are in VTEC. And remember, we set VTEC to 3,800 RPMs. That's what I have mine set to. 3,800 RPMs and what, 70 kilopascals. Okay, what's mine set to? I have VTEC at 3,600 RPMs at 62 kilopascals. That means that at 37 or 3,800 RPMs, my VTEC is going to be engaged if my kilopascal is above 62. So if I move the map again. If I come to the map, oh God, 35, 39. Shit, where the hell was it? Okay. 4,004. We already came into VTEC. And I'm gonna show you something. If you're unsure, let me close this. Let me show you a little trick. Click that and then click this. If you are unsure, you can double click your marker, right? We know we're not in VTEC because now we're at 3,000 RPMs. You can't see it here, but you can see it here. We're at 3,000 RPMs. We're moving. Now you see the switch? Look at this table. You see the switch? Right? And as soon as we hit 3,800 RPMs, it goes into VTEC because our kilopascal is 81 kilopascal. And on the VTEC table, we said if I exceed 65 kilopascals and I'm above 3,800 RPMs, give me the VTEC. And we are. We go 38. See the table? Oh, we're at 36, right? 35. And see the switch up here? As soon as it goes to 36, 35, 44, 45, 74, boom, 36,007 RPMs, it goes into VTEC. So we're already in VTEC. I'm gonna take it all the way to 4,000 just to be easy. So we are in VTEC, 4,000 RPMs, 81 kilopascals, 22 degrees of cam. We are 20 degrees, 4,000 RPMs, just around 80 kilopascals, and 20 degrees. There we are. 4,000, 80 kilopascals, 20 degrees. This is your table, okay? Now, if you are not in VTEC, let's say we're going to go back to 3,500 RPMs, then you're not in VTEC, which means you're at 3,500 RPMs, our kilopascals are 80, 3,500 RPMs, 80 kilopascals right here. This is where we are, and we're not in VTEC, which means we are in low fuel. If we're in VTEC, then it would be high fuel. And in order for that to happen, we have to exceed the 60 kilopascals. We're in 80 kilopascals, but we haven't met 3,600 RPMs. 36, 4,000, now we're in VTEC. So let's say 43 miles an hour, 32 TPS, 4,000 RPMs, 84 kilopascals, 23 cam, and this is rich. I want to remove fuel to get a hotter combustion, to get more power, and we're not getting any knock. We're not getting any knock. Knock control is low. We have lots of room to get more power. So then this is what we do. We're at 2,000. So now we're just gonna look at the order of these numerical values: 714, 714, 1735, 1795, 1900. We kind of, well, that's good, yeah, 95 in 5 digits. 1900 and 2000. Now, what you would do is this darker red one, it's writing this column more than this one, and it's writing this one more than these two bottom ones. And what I would do is I would just say, well, from 2000, I will go to 1900. Yeah, I probably make this one 1900 and then make that one 1795 and then make that one 1735. You get it, to where the last one can still stay at 1714, because there's never going to be a driving condition where you're going to be at 1,000 RPMs and you're going to be at here for much long, right? It's going to be like a blip of a second, and we kind of really don't drive like that. But you could leave it like that unless you do create that situation in a parking lot or on a dyno, and you can tell if it's rich or lean, and then you can make adjustments. But now that you know where you are, these 4 columns belong to this measurement right here. So you would just by a little bit, reduce, 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 and maybe you can reduce down here or not, okay? Now, the only way to know how many boxes should I reduce fuel? Well, this is what you do. You double click and you move it. I'm going to the left, so the RPMs are going down. 1354, 58. From 3,500 RPMs to, from 3,500 RPMs to 40 what? To 4,000. From 35 to 400 RPMs, I'm rich. So that means for 500 RPMs of that throttle curve, or that RPM curve, you're rich. So where from these 4 columns here, from there to there, so you have 6 columns to work with. 6 columns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You would reduce those and you'd blend it out. Now, before I end this video, because I don't want to make it too long, anywhere you mark here, you see it lands here. Okay? It lands there, it lands there. Now, before you make changes here, to get a better look at your map, go to the 2-dimensional version of the same exact map. And mine are already smoothed out because I've been working on my map for about a week already. So these are all smoothed out. Yours is going to look a little bit more jagged. So if you go to your supposed tune, and we were at low fuel, we said we were at, well, let's just say, for example, 3,000 RPMs at 80 kilopascals, you're going to be like about right here. So if you go to this table doesn't look so bad. Okay, I'm going to give you a better example. Let me see. Okay, let's say we're here, 17, let me see something. Okay, let's say I'm at 2,000 RPMs. I'm at 2,000 RPMs and I'm at 70 kilopascals and I'm rich. Okay, 1979 is a little rich. These numerical values, it just means an amount of fuel, but they're not connected to anything. They're just numerical values. And let's say, wow, I'm running a little rich. If you're looking at this table, you can see this king like a piece of paper, like it's bent up. That means more. Okay, going up in this direction means more, and up, in the 3-dimensional way also means more. But then when you click on the 2-dimensional, you say, wow, yeah, no wonder I'm rich. Look at this spike. So what you would do is I double click on this to get a hold of it. Let me see, I wait till the marker tells me I'm on it. Double click and I can move it anywhere I want, okay? Now I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and bring that down just a little bit because I know I'm rich and I know this one has to come down too, right? You can't just move one and not the others. So I come over here, move that down a little bit. Come on, dude. Move that down a little bit. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna move that down a little bit. Now, the changes, I'm gonna click this just to move this out of the way. Now you see how these turn green? These have a green border around it. That means 2 things. Number 1, you've edited these fuel cells. Number two, the reason it's green is because you did a good thing. Okay, you lowered the fuel. You did a good thing and you're moving away from the danger zone. Okay, if I come here and I say, oh, this looks a little low, I want to bump it up, and I do this, which doesn't look pretty anyway, then you can see that this cell is red because now I'm going into the hot zone, I'm adding fuel, I'm looking for performance. Okay, now the reason I like to come here and clean this up a little bit first is because if I'm in this cell 1869 and I'm like, I'm rich, 1869, maybe it should be 1700. Okay, maybe it should be 1700. And you might think so, you might think that was a good decision, but when you look at the 2D map, this very obvious kink lets you know that that was not a good decision. If you're looking at the 2D map, you can kind of see that it's sunken in, it really doesn't blend with everything else. But when you're in the two-dimensional map, it's a lot more obvious and you can kind of pinpoint it a lot better. Now, the reason I tell you to save everything you do every time you do it is for this reason. Let's say you go, oh no, 17 too much. Oh, let me undo that. I don't remember what this value was. I don't remember. And you go to edit and you go to undo. It's going to undo all the prior work you did because you didn't save it. Okay, so you come back, you go to redo, and now you just got to do this manually. You have to take a wild guess, but at least make it blend, right? Now let's say I do that and I move it and I'm like, oh, that's the best I can do. It's like a little high or whatever. You come here, it's a little high, 1907. Let's make it 1900. Still high, I don't like it. Let's say if I go 1885. 1885. That looks a lot better. I can work with that. Okay, so what I do is I come here first, I move these first depending on my navigation. I'm going to move this down a little bit and I'm going to move this down. Maybe it's too rich. I'm going to move that down. Okay, before I hit save, before I do anything, automatically I'm just going to touch this column so these are more visible. Now we know which ones we just worked on these. Okay, we just worked on them. We don't know what these values mean, but we know it needed to come down. Now, the best thing you can do for now is to just make these numbers even. That's another indication that tells me that I've already been here before. So we're at 1074. Now we're at 1100. That's okay. That's 26 more points. That's not bad. 1100. Let's round that off to, let's put a 0. That way it's 1110. We got 1147. I'm going to round it off. 1145. 1156. I'm going to make that a 5. Okay. So I like to do my tunes in either 5s or 0s because it's more even. It helps me get a nicer, smoother curve. And it also lets me know I've been there. Because when I come here and I hit save, okay, and I'm doing work and I go to this table, and then I'm like, yeah, and then I come back, it doesn't show you where you last were. Once you hit save and you continue to make progress and then you come back, those are gone. So you're like, ah, crap, man, what did I do? I don't remember. Well, we know that we keep either 0s or 5s. So I'm looking, I'm like 63. I know I didn't touch that because I don't leave my fuel values in uneven numbers. I like to do even numbers. So 53, I didn't touch that one. 1621, I didn't touch that. I didn't touch that. 1155, that I did. 1145, I did. And 1110, especially that there's 3 in a row. You're like, that's a clear indication that I've done these 3. All right. So I'm going to leave it at that. This video got a little longer than what it was. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section below. That way you guys can steer me in the right direction. In the following video, I can answer questions that are more related to what your guys' real situation is. All right, thank you and take care.